People often look at issues in very black and white mindsets, but the reality is there's a lot of gray in the world. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about the importance of nuance and discussion. And I'm a big believer that most of, if not all of, issues with humanity, with societies, with anything and everything, the issues that people have really boil down to either a lack of empathy or lack of understanding on a particular issue, no matter how hotly contested the issue is. Now, there are points where people will fundamentally disagree, and at those, you can't really argue with something. But for the most part, explaining your position and being able to have nuanced discussion on different things really does go a long way in furthering better understanding of a given topic. I'm not a big fan of slogans for this reason. They kind of do the exact opposite of this. For example, in 2020, we saw the big rise of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests as a response to the murder of George Floyd. Now, in that movement also came a very popular slogan, which was called "Defund the Police." The thing is, when a lot of people heard that slogan and they looked at it on its face, they saw it to say, defund the police, get rid of the police, dismantle the police, etc. Well, a lot of people did actually mean just that. What the slogan actually meant, and the ideology, if you will, actually meant was specifically reallocating funds from the police or demilitarizing the police as well, and putting those funds into things like social welfare programs and such that can be better used to help people rather than relying on cops all the time to resolve every issue. I'm sure I'll do a discussion on cops and my views on them in general at some point, but basically the reasoning for that is because cops are oftentimes used as kind of the end-all be-all, the go-to for any kind of societal issue, and there are many times where they're just not equipped well for the job. And an example of this is oftentimes when you have mentally ill people, sometimes cops will be put in and they don't know how to deal with a mentally ill person, but maybe a social worker who can work with them more while still having the cops on standby as protection would be a better idea for those kind of things. And there are even states that actually did that kind of thing, and guess what? It worked out well. But a lot of people, again, heard that narrative of defund the police, and they thought that it meant just get rid of the police altogether. In my opinion, a better slogan for that would have been reallocate funds from the police or demilitarize the police. But defund the police just sounds so harsh and essentialist. And I think that's a big issue here, is kind of the essentialization of certain issues. Another example of this is if we look at the phrase, believe all women. A lot of people take that to just mean on its face immediately whenever a woman makes a claim about any kind of abuse that they went through, regardless of who they are, regardless of who they're accusing, immediately believe them no matter what. A lot of people take it to mean exactly that. And you'll have people all over, especially Twitter, for example, where they're stating how, oh, I stand with victims and all these other different things, when they don't even know who the person that they're standing with is. What ends up happening because of this is that you end up having a type of digital witch hunt, mob mentality, and quite frankly, this type of cancel culture that often does occur to people accused. You end up with this guilty until proven innocent mentality, and it just doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit real victims. It doesn't benefit anybody at all. I'm a big believer in innocent until proven guilty, but I'm sure I'll have a discussion on these kind of things more specifically in the future. In this case, the phrase believe all women was initially just believe women. But the thing about that is people did take that. They extrapolated and they essentialized to make it believe all women. Ultimately, what it really meant was just listen to women, because here's this group of people who've been marginalized throughout history where they oftentimes weren't believed when they made accusations of abuse of any kind or any kind of unfair treatment simply because they were women. It was a way to kind of empower women to fight back. But when you have that essentialist nature of believe all women, it becomes, well, essentialized. And this isn't really a discussion as to whether or not people should be able to intuitively understand what the nuance of these topics and these slogans are. We have to work in reality and what is, not what should be. So while there may be people like myself, or maybe even you watching, that think, oh, well, of course it doesn't mean literally believe all women, of course it doesn't mean just get rid of the police, of course there's more nuance to this, the general public doesn't think that way. So we do need to have these nuanced discussions, these nuanced understandings, so that we can help people better understand what these things are really about. One of the other things with the Believe All Women slogan and hashtag is that it became only believe women. Never believe a man, or for that matter, even a non-binary person, if they come out with any kind of accusations of anything at all. Just believe women. And when there's two women, well, believe the woman that made the accusation. Again, you end up with all of this essentialized nature, and there's no real winner in these types of situations. Similarly to how I believe that defund the police should have actually been reallocate funds from the police or demilitarize the police, I believe that the phrase believe all women should actually have been, and still believe it should be, listen to victims. Especially those that you know personally. I'll have a video discussing this more in depth at some point too, but the reality is you don't know some random person on Twitter who's going to just fling random allegations at somebody or something or a group of people or whatever is the case. You don't know them. You don't know if you can trust them. You don't know them. But people that you know in your real life, absolutely you should trust. Absolutely you should stand by, you should support. Random people online? Not really. Like I said, I'll have a video going into depth about that kind of discussion more in the future. But I really do believe that, unfortunately, while these progressive ideas and concepts do mean well and are coming from a good place, they can easily be extrapolated and essentialized into things that don't even mean what they actually mean. That's why it's very important to be willing and able to have these nuanced conversations. If somebody doesn't understand your point, be able to discuss that in a way that they might understand more. If someone's indignant and they're just not going to listen to you regardless, don't waste your time. But in my experience, at least, most people are willing and open to have actual discussion on these kind of things. And those nuanced conversations, in my experience, do lead to better understanding. A recent example of this is, in light of the recent Don't Say Gay bill here in Florida, I had a conversation with some people who thought that teachers were actually stopping class entirely to teach them about LGBTQ issues. When I explained that, no, that's not what it's about, that's not what teachers are doing. It's just simply like when you were going to school and you had a teacher that was, say, a woman, and they mentioned something about their husband, they would just casually do that. Well, the Don't Say Gay bill makes it more specifically that if a teacher who is a woman, for example, happens to mention they have a wife, or a man happens to mention they have a husband, they can get in trouble for that. That's what the Don't Say Gay bill is about. I'm sure I'll have a more nuanced discussion video about that topic in particular at some point in the future too, but for now, these are just some examples why it's so important to be able to have those nuanced conversations that lead to better understanding. Because in my case, with both of these people, it did lead to better understanding. Now, it is always a constant and kind of uphill battle being had here, but it is one that I genuinely believe can be won, so to speak, with nuance and discussion. So, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more, links down below in the description. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.